I want to walk you through Helium 10's historical trend feature. A lot of people don't use this. The situation we're going to go through is pretty straightforward. Last year, there was a product. It was ranked amazingly, getting a lot of sales. And this year, comparing December, the month of December to the month of December last year, our sales are down tremendously. And the person reached out to me and he's like, I can't figure out what it is. He asked me to do a deep dive. I went in and I was shocked at what I saw. I want to share it with you guys. And we're going to look at it through by using the Helium 10's tool, Cerebro, but specifically we're using the historical trend feature that a lot of people don't use. And when people see that sales go down, they usually think that, Amazon's punishing them or that the competitors just, are doing some sort of hack. They don't know what it is. They think something's broken, but they don't know if it was on their end or if it was something that just stayed out of their control. When you actually look at the historical data, you see exactly what's going on. You'll see what changed. You're going to know exactly how many keywords was I ranked for last year and how many keywords am I ranked for this year. And you might think, what am I going to do about that? If I just know how many keywords, you're going to know exactly which keywords were ranked last year. Which keywords were giving you all of the sales and which keywords are you no longer getting those sales from this year. And you can compare it from last month to this month. You can go back 24 months. You can go back 2 years. You can see exactly where the sales were coming from and what changed. The chart that I'm going to show you in a second, it's not that Amazon suddenly just, killed their listing overnight and just took away all their keywords. It was something that was gradually happening over time, and the seller just wasn't paying attention and tracking these things. And once we saw that, everything started making sense. Drop in the organic rank, drop in the visibility, equals the drop in the sales. So instead of guessing and trying to just fix random things, I want to show you the data and show you exactly how this whole situation played out. Before comparing last year to this year, I just want to slow down a minute and explain what this historical trend view really is showing, because a lot of people misread it. This isn't a chart that shows you how good your rankings are. It's not saying you're winning or you're losing. What it's really showing you is how many keywords Amazon is even associating with this ASIN over time. So when you see this number going up, that means Amazon is testing the product across much more search terms, showing it to more shoppers in more places, and it's collecting data on how people interact with it. When you see the number going down, it doesn't mean Amazon's mad at you. It usually means Amazon has fewer reasons to keep showing your product for these searches. That's why this is different from just checking where you rank on a main keyword. You can still be holding a good position on one term, but you might be losing visibility everywhere else over a lot of other terms. So this view helps you see what's going on and what's happening before it becomes obvious in your sales and all your other top keywords. So when I look at historical trends, I'm not asking where do I rank today, I'm asking how big is the space that Amazon still puts our product in. And once that starts shrinking, everything else, unfortunately, usually follows. So this is the historical trend view inside Cerebro. We're looking at the total number of keywords this ASIN is ranked over time. Each bar here is 1 month, and it's broken down between organic keywords and sponsored keywords. All right, so this is the total number of keywords that Amazon is showing us for. Since now it's January, we were really looking at the month of December to see what's going on. But we could just go through and we can see, let's say December. In December, there was 51,765 organic keywords that we were ranked for. And then you can see sponsored products, we sponsored 46,865. And then if you compare it with this December, there was only 26,340 organic keywords and only 5,870 that were sponsored. So before I dive into that, let's just go month over month. So you can see over here, organic in December was 51,000. Organic in January was 43,000. Then it went to 32,000. And you can see the organic keeps shrinking over time. 28,000, same 29,000, 22,000. Then there was a little jump in July. Maybe that's because of the July Prime Day. But you can see overall the trend is going very down. It's declining each month. That's just the organic. But now we see also, what do we see? We see the organic, the sponsored is also declining month over month. If you look over here, there's 87,100 keywords sponsored for October, then they brought it down to 73,000, then they brought it down to cut it in half almost, 46,000 sponsored, then 17,000. So like they were spending a lot of money on ads, a lot. They were advertising a lot of different keywords. Probably a lot of it was a waste, but reducing the ad spend so aggressively had a huge impact on the organic rank. All right, so let's say that we want to just, dial in on this and look at the organic only, because right now we're showing the organic and the sponsored. So let's say we just want to see how many keywords Amazon was showing organically each month. We could use this over here. We could just go from all to organic. All right, let's look at December specifically, since we're, the main thing we were trying to see is why was our December horrible compared to last December. So we'll start at December. So December of last year, there was 51,765 organic terms that we were ranked for. And then January we went down to 43,415. February was 32,000. March was also 32,000. Then it went down to 28,000, 29,000. So it looks like it kept going down and down and down until July, which is when we had the July Prime Day. So that probably gave us a nice boost, but then it follows the same pattern. It just keeps going down and down from 36,000 down to all the way to 27,000, 23,000, 24,000, 24,000. A little boost in December to 26,000. But it's not really a boost. If you look at December 2025, there's 26,000 keywords. And if you look at December 2024, there's double the amount. There's almost 52,000 keywords that we're showing for. So it's a huge difference. And that's one of the biggest reasons why sales plummeted this year. And they continue to plummet. All right, so this table is basically answering one question. Which organic keywords existed before and don't exist anymore? Not where they moved, but whether they still exist at all. You notice a lot of keywords that were ranking organically before, they're just gone now. They're not on page 2, they're not on page 3, they're not ranking. This doesn't have any filters to show only the first page. This is ranking. So there was 51,000 keywords December 2024 compared to 26,000 December 2025. So where did all those other keywords go? We'll get into that later on in the video. But this whole thing tells us that Amazon they completely stopped showing our product in those searches. And then, the seller will usually just say, but we didn't do anything wrong. And that's kind of the point. Amazon didn't see a reason to keep ranking you for these same terms. If this was a quality problem or a listing problem, you'd see the remaining keywords tank too. It's not what happened. It's really what survived. So it's not like Amazon organic rankings just, it's not like the organic rankings just, got worse. They completely disappeared. It's a different problem. This is why you have to compare months. It's so useful. Like where, how many keywords was Amazon showing us for? You can see over time it just went down. It used to be closer to 40,000 line. Now it's closer to 20,000 line. And we could do the same thing for paid. Now paid is a little bit more interesting. Paid, you can see over here, there was 46,865 keywords in December. And then it was cut in half, more than half in January to 17,000. Then it was cut again to 3,000, went up a little bit, but it was still not the same as it was. It was always, every month was significantly less sponsored ads from the peak, from what it used to be. If you look months before, there was 100,000 plus, 100,000 plus, 200,000 plus, 80,000, 50,000, 90,000, 70,000. They were sponsoring like crazy. They were spending so much on ads and covering so many different keywords. And then one day they just said, you know what, we're going to stop spending and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. Maybe it didn't happen overnight, but you could just see it just started to go down. 17, 26, 24. And in the past, it was 48, 51, 40, 51. So things got cut in half. So the ad spend being reduced in a non-strategic way had a huge impact on the organic rank. All right, so I want to flip this to the percentage view for a second. I want to be very clear about why I'm doing this. This could be very misleading if you don't already understand what happened. I'm not using the percentage view to figure out how bad the drop was. We already did that with the count view. We know the total number of keywords that came down. That part is already proven. The only thing percentage view helps with is understanding what was carrying the load at different points in time. So if I hover over these early months around the peak, you can see that a very big percentage of the visibility was coming from sponsored keywords. Organic was still strong, but the ads were helping. The ads were clearly helping show this product across a lot more searches. It's not a bad thing. It's actually pretty normal. Ads are usually what allows a product to just, go beyond the core organic terms and start getting visibility in more places. So this tells me that ads were being pulled back either in budget or in keyword coverage. And this is where most people get just banged up, because when you look at the later months, the organic looks like it makes up a bigger percentage of the total. Look at the organic over here. Organic is orange. So look, it went from over here 36%, 34% to 52%, 71%. 91%, 80s, the organic clearly is making up majority of the sales over here compared to in the past. But that doesn't mean that the organic got stronger. That what it really means is the sponsored disappeared first. So pie didn't get better, the pie got smaller. Organic just makes up a larger slice of what's left. And when you connect this back to the count view, it lines up perfect. Sponsored coverage was reduced. Amazon had fewer reasons to keep testing this product across all the different searches, and over time, organic followed it down. See, now there's 5,000, 26,000, and you can just see it was much more, 40,000, 50,000. So the percentage view doesn't tell you what's lost, it tells you what was doing the most work when things were growing and who was left once things were cut back. That's why I use the view as supporting evidence only. It helps explain why reducing the sponsored had such a big impact on organic, but it doesn't replace the count view at all. This is the main view over here, where you can see the total amount of keywords. So now that we went through the historical trends, broken down by organic and sponsored, and looked at both the count view and the percentage view, the big question is, what do we do with all this? Because the mistake is a lot of sellers at this point, all they're doing is trying to get the ranking back the same way they lost them, by pushing the few main keywords really hard and hoping everything else follows. That's actually not the problem here. The problem isn't a couple of keywords slipped. The problem is the overall keyword footprint got reduced, and by a lot. Amazon stopped associating this product with a lot of searches that it used to show up for. So if we were stepping into this account, the first thing I would do is I would not panic and start just cranking up all the bids to the max CPC. That usually will just burn money and it will not rebuild what was lost. What I'd be thinking about is, how do we re-expand the coverage in a controlled way? Because if you look back about when this product was doing the best, when it was the strongest, it wasn't just ranking well for a few keywords, it was showing up for a lot of different searches, and some of them were strong on the very, very top of the page, some of them were in the middle of the page, the rest of the page. Some of them probably didn't convert amazingly, but it kept telling Amazon, keep testing my product, keep showing it for similar terms. Once that testing stopped, Amazon pulled back on a lot of keywords and put it into a very small box. So the goal isn't to force Amazon to rank you again. The goal is to give Amazon enough signals to start testing you again for a lot of different keywords. One thing that's extremely useful here is that when I click on a certain month and I apply filters, Cerebro basically rewinds time. It'll show me what this ASIN was ranking for organically and with sponsored during that time, not today. So I can look back in the past and see exactly what I was showing for and where I was getting my sales from. All right, so now that we looked at the trends and understand what changed over time, this is where I usually like to stop looking at the chart and start to actually dig into the keywords. So one really useful thing about this view is when you click into a specific month, Cerebro basically lets you look back in time. So instead of guessing what this product used to rank for, you can actually see it. So let's say I click on December here and I click apply. What Cerebro is doing now is it's pulling the keyword data as if we were sitting in December. This isn't today's ranking. This is what Amazon was ranking this ASIN during that month. So that's important because this is the last point where organic coverage was pretty, still pretty healthy. Now that the data loaded, the first thing we want to do to simplify it, I don't want sponsored data mixed in yet. We will get to that, but right now I just want to see what Amazon was willing to rank this product on naturally at that time. Okay, so let's say what we want to do, we want to see the organic positions. Let's do like this. If you click time period over here, you can just choose the month directly from here. But again, I like to go through the way that I showed you so you can see month over month and know where you want to exactly look. So let's say we're looking at December 2024, and we want to see the organic rank 1 through, let's do 1 through 50 for now. And again, you can set up this criteria any way you want. Apply filter. We just want to see, we were showing up for 1,652 different keywords at this time. We can sort by search volume. We can see there was a keyword over here with almost 178,000 search volume. We were in the 28th spot. This one had 24,000 search volume. We were in the 20th spot. We can see all these different keywords over here that we were ranking for. So let's say we want to look at 1 through 10 organic ranking for that year. We can see all these different keywords. This was ranked in the 6th spot, 8th spot, 7th spot, 8th spot, 1st spot, and we can compare it to this year and see, are we still ranked for all these different keywords? 1 through 10, there was 400 different keywords ranking for this. If we go 1 through 20, there's 754 different keywords that we were ranking in the top 20. And the same thing, if you can keep expanding until you feel like it's not relevant anymore. If you look at the top 30 spots, since those are on the first page anyway, there's 1,000 different keywords. And you can look and you can compare. You open up multiple tabs or you export the data. I personally like to export the data and just compare it side by side on an Excel sheet or a Google sheet and just see rank of last year December, rank of this year December. And then you compare and you come up with a whole game plan on how we're going to rebuild these keywords. And then let's say you want to see, let's get rid of organic rank for a second. Let's say we want to see sponsored rank. 1 through 50, apply. There's 4,782 different keywords that we were sponsoring for in the average of 1 through 50th spot. And then you can see, there's a keyword over here with 1.3 million. We were sponsoring this on average. This one has 350,000 search volume. We were in the 12th spot sponsored on average. So these keywords, we weren't getting we weren't ranked organically for these keywords very strongly, but we were sponsoring them in a top position. So it could be that we were making money from this keyword, or we were just getting a lot of sales from this keyword, and Amazon was showing us and testing us out for a lot of other related keywords to this term. If we start going back to the organic keywords that we were ranking for at that time, I want you to just keep in mind, some of these keywords probably did not convert well. Some of them probably converted well, some of them probably didn't, but they all existed in Amazon's system. Now, the reason this matters is because a lot of sellers try to fix ranking issues without ever looking at this. They just pick a handful of keywords and then just push them harder and harder. But what they're missing is that Amazon already had a much bigger picture about this product before. And the picture slowly got smaller in Amazon's eyes when you started focusing only on a few things, only on a few keywords. So what I'll usually do next is, I'll keep this list in mind, I'll export it onto an Excel sheet, and then I'll repeat the same process for a more recent month. I'll go back to historical trends, look at a recent month, let's say January, filter, Cerebro, export, and now I'm looking at the organic keywords that Amazon is ranking today compared to whatever the previous search you did was, whenever the sales were where you want them to be again. And this is where the difference becomes obvious, because you compare these two lists and you're not just seeing keywords move up or down, you're seeing keywords completely disappear. These are terms that existed in December and they don't exist anymore at all. They're not on page 2, they're not on page 5, they're just gone. And that's something that most sellers do not look at. They don't understand that. They completely disappeared from any of these terms. So what I'm looking for is keywords that still make sense for the product, that aren't completely out of left field, and Amazon already understood that at one point. Those keywords are much easier to reintroduce than trying to force brand new ones. So instead of guessing what to advertise, I'd rather start with keywords that Amazon already validated before and gently put them back into the searches. Not aggressively, not with crazy bids, just enough to get Amazon to start testing them again. Because at this point, you're not trying to rank higher, you're trying to just widen the footprint, and that's a very big difference. And once you start doing this consistently, you're gonna see that it's not an overnight jump in ranks. What you wanna see is the historical trend chart slowly start to widen again. All right, so at this point, we went through the historical trends, we looked at the organic versus sponsored, we clicked into the specific months, and we pulled out the actual keywords that we were ranking for during those months. So this is where the person usually asks me, okay, what do I do with all this information without losing my mind? So this is where you need to build a comparison chart. This is one of the most important things. You cannot just look at it on, switching back and forth between tabs. You will lose your mind. So I'll show you a sheet example that we use. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. And you don't need to build it exactly like this. The point of my sheet, me showing you my sheet, isn't format or the layout, it's just what are you comparing? So I'll show you the sheet. All right, the first thing we're gonna look at, you're downloading the keyword tabs. You're just exporting all the data from Cerebro so you can see the different ranks. Here's December 2025, December 2024, just comparing the different keyword ranks using different filters. This is the core of the sheet. Coming straight out of Cerebro, you have the keyword, the search volume, whether the product was ranking organically, what the actual rank was. What I care about here is it's not just did the rank move, it's whether or not the keyword still exists. So if a keyword ranked organically last year and it doesn't show up at all this year, that's not a ranking issue, that's an association issue. That's Amazon doesn't think this product belongs for this search anymore. And then when you start seeing that over and over again, it lines up perfectly with what we saw in the historical trend. The footprint didn't slide, it got smaller. So we're gonna pull a few different ASINs, comparing the ASINs. Then we should also look at the competitors. That's something we didn't even dive into. Everything we spoke about could be looked at on a competitor level also. So that could be a whole nother video in itself, but basically take your biggest competitors and see exactly what they're ranking for. I just want to go into it because I can't believe I didn't even discuss that on the video. It could be another video, maybe I will make one, but everything we went over, all that historical data that you can see, how many keywords were we advertising on this month and this month? How many keywords were we showing up for this month and this month? How did the ads affect it? You could look at a competitor now and you can see how were they spending months ago? Were they always spending so much or so little? Were they always ranked for this many keywords? Maybe you notice one of your competitors used to do a lot of ads and now he's not doing any ads. Now you can see how is that affecting his sales. You can't just blindly copy competitors and just think, okay, if they're doing it like this, I'll do it like this. Or you might see, you know what, they're not spending on a lot on ads and I don't need to spend on ads, but how many organic keywords are they ranked for compared to you? So looking at the competitors' historical data is an unbelievable thing to do also. You can see where are they ranking, where are they getting their sales from, what are they spending on, which keywords are they spending on. This is like one of the biggest things that you have to be doing. Okay, I'm not gonna show my report anymore. Basically, make your own report, download the business report, look month over month, how are your sales, how is your profit, were you doing better last year? If you were doing better last year, then you need to see why. Look at last year's, how were you spending on ads, how aggressively, how many different keywords were you spending on, which keywords were they, what was your organic rank on certain things. So not only the major keywords, but also the smaller, as long as they're relevant, the smaller keywords matter a lot. And you have to go back and see, is Amazon putting in their mind and in their algorithm that you don't belong for these keywords any longer and they're removing you completely from the searches? That has a huge effect and it's a domino effect. It keeps getting worse and worse or better and better depending on what direction you're going into. So to wrap this up, the main thing I want people to take away is this isn't about Helium 10 or Cerebro or any one tool. It's about how you think about rankings. What this example shows pretty clearly is that rankings don't disappear overnight. They fade when a product stops being supported across enough searches on Amazon for them to keep testing it. Amazon wants to keep testing your keywords. So when you look at the historical trend, you're not just looking at what did Amazon do. You're looking at how Amazon reacted to a series of decisions over and over again. In this case, sponsored coverage was reduced, keyword coverage got narrower, and then organic visibility slowly followed. Nothing broke. There wasn't a penalty. This wasn't a penalty. This wasn't Amazon punishing us. This was Amazon adjusting and just thinking they're doing what's right and showing us to less and less people because of what we did. That's why I keep coming back to the idea of the footprint. If your footprint gets smaller, the rankings feel unstable and they become unstable. If the footprint stays wide, the rankings tend to hold a lot better, even when things aren't perfect. And another reason I wanted to walk you through this whole thing, step by step, is because most sellers never look at this. They never see this part of the story. They look at today's rankings, maybe last week's rankings, or if they're looking at the previous rankings, they're just focusing on the main keywords and they're trying to fix everything in isolation. They're not looking at the big picture. When you start comparing months and looking at which keywords actually disappeared and trying to get back to the ad decisions that you made, the picture gets a lot clearer. You stop guessing, you stop overreacting, and you start making changes with that intent. So if you're dealing with something similar, my advice is simple. Don't panic, don't chase individual keywords, zoom out, take a step back to look at everything, look at your historical coverage, figure out what Amazon used to understand about your product and what it understands now. And once you have that, the path usually makes a lot more sense. That's it. I hope this video helped you understand a little bit more about rankings and the algorithm and how Amazon looks at your product. If you have an ASIN that you just can't wrap your head around and you're trying to make sense about it, you can drop, a comment below. I'll read through it. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or my website. If this video felt long, that's on purpose. This stuff doesn't make sense in 2 minutes, and most ranking problems are not caused by just one thing. A lot of sellers get stuck because they only look at what's in front of them today, and the whole process is really just about giving yourself enough context so that you're not guessing. This helped you think a little bit differently about rankings. I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe and share this video with anyone you think that it might be helpful to. And that's really it. I'm going to keep doing these types of breakdowns and explanations on this type of stuff because this is stuff that I wish I saw when I was starting out on Amazon. And if you have an ASIN that looks confusing and you can't figure out how or why visibility dropped, leave a comment below. You can share your ASIN. If you don't want to share your ASIN, you could just message me on LinkedIn, my website. I can't promise I'll be able to get through every ASIN request, but I will try to cover as much as I can. This isn't about change. This isn't about chasing some magic keyword or tricking the algorithm. Just understanding how Amazon reacts over time. Anyway, I hope this helped. I'll see you in the next video. One thing I want to add is this is not something you need to check every week. This is more of a sanity check when your rankings stop making sense, when you know something is off. If you're in a situation where your spend went down and your rankings went down and you're not sure which caused which, this is usually where the answer lives. This is also why I don't like reacting too quickly to short-term ranking changes. Amazon moves very slow on this stuff and the data usually explains it after the fact. If you take anything from this, it's that rankings are more about consistency over time than any one move. This kind of analysis might be boring to some people, but boring usually is where the answers are. And if you're not the type of person who could look through all these things, you need to have somebody or a team of people who will be doing this work. All right, that's enough for one video. Like, subscribe, share with somebody who's stuck. That's all I got.